Friends, I just want to share with you a bit of my story and how it shapes and has impacted on the work that we do with our clients across the world in Project V, and how it actually helps experienced C-suite executives who may have had years of doing press conferences and TV interviews, speaking on stage to hundreds, thousands of people, how the work that we do with what they will do with their smartphones and the videos on their smartphones changes everything. So I wanted to share a little bit of my story with you as we go for a walk here in Central Park. It's a little ironic in my mind because the work that we do at the start of Project V is no walk in the park. It's quite profound. It is quite challenging for people. It feels uncomfortable. So let's go for a walk in the park while I tell you. Sorry for the pun. I've got that out of the way now. You can either roll your eyes at me or chuckle quietly. I don't mind which. When I was 14, Dad brought home a video camera, Sony Handycam. Never forget, it was in a big blue cardboard box, this tiny black device that held the power to make television. Back in the 80s, TV and video was just something that lived in that box in the corner of the room. You couldn't make it. Changing the channel was tricky enough. You had to get up out of your seat. There was no remote control. You had to get up, press buttons on the front of the box to change the channel and get a different story. And so things were just so different back then. And the magic that was there for me as a 14-year-old, I was not allowed near this Handycam. Of course, I was too young and I could break it, and it's only for adults and it's a serious thing. It's not a toy. But it was magic for me. And that really lit a fuse in me that I've carried right through my life. The magic of television to tell stories and to build community. And I've since seen that the stories that intrigued me back then, that I wrestled with for so much of my life to be the storyteller, those first few years as a young cadet reporter were just so challenging for me because I was out of my depth. I wanted to be a storyteller, but I didn't have the capability because of all of the things that were happening for me whenever I went on video. And so I understand what it is for other people who have been making video content themselves for a long time but just not really enjoying it. I understand what it is when you have that sense of, I've just got to do this. I don't really like how I look and sound. And so the work that we do in Project V is heavily influenced by my lived experience from back as a 14-year-old kid, the magic of television, to a young cadet reporter in my 20s, out of my depth, right the way through now as your storyteller coach, enabling you to recognize the value of your story, and by aligning your story with your purpose to really amplify your impact on the planet. But it involves whether you're someone who's been avoiding the camera your whole life and just leaving that storytelling to other people because you just don't like how you look and sound, or you may have gone down another path, still not liked how you looked and sounded, but pushed yourself to do it. And what happens, I see quite a lot, certainly what happened for me as a junior reporter, and I see it in people in their 60s and 70s who've been doing media for their whole career. Still, I can hear in their voice that robotic puppet kind of sound. It's not them. And when I ask them, more often than not, they say to me, and this might be true for you too, you look back at your video and you go, I never really watch it back. It's not for me, I don't like it. And there is a level of discomfort with how we show up that is, it's not about necessarily that we think we're terrible, it's just that we don't recognize ourselves in that video when we look back at it because we've put on a mask. And it might be a mask of overconfidence, it might just be a fake mask. There's all sorts of different masks we put on, but they don't serve us well. And ultimately, they limit our ability to connect with an audience in a real way because it's a fake us. So you might be wondering, why did a young guy who just likes the magic of television and storytelling end up forcing himself to do something that was deeply uncomfortable for many, many years? Friends, showing up on video for me daily to do news stories was an awful experience for the first few years because I was 23, 24, and back in the early 2000s, late 1990s, there were not a lot of young guys my age in a Sydney metropolitan market. It was quite a significant thing. And Telling the news back then too was a bit more of a, it was respected a lot more in the community than it is today. Today it's just so much more widespread and available. Back then it was this really precise thing that only a few people did, and storytelling, news reporting was a whole different ballgame. And so there I was as a young guy, way out of my depth. I wasn't even aware how much I didn't like how I looked and sounded on video, but yet, when I tell friends, oh yeah, I got a job at Channel 10, I'm on the news in Sydney, and I'd be all excited to be at a family barbecue or something, or hanging out with mates. Oh, did you see me? I've started with Channel 10. And they'd be like, oh yeah, I saw you on the news. Yeah, is that what you're doing now? And they were just so uncomfortable because I sounded so fake. I looked and sounded like a school kid, even though I was 23, 24. I looked like I was fresh out of high school. And who's this young guy telling us the news? Because like I say, back then the news was the news. And there was a real disconnect. And the more feedback I got from people around how kind of awkward it looked and sounded, and the more I just recognised, I feel really awkward doing this. Because I wasn't trying to build a name for myself or be a celebrity news reporter or anything like that. I just wanted to tell stories and use the craft of the moments that you can capture, the interviews you can do, and tell great stories on video. That's all I was really trying to do. And so I had to bring a real level of discipline and determination to keep showing up every day, even when it felt deeply uncomfortable to do it. Deeply uncomfortable for many years. And it wasn't, friends, until I started bringing a greater sense of purpose to the stories I was telling that things shifted for me in how I spoke and how I showed up. I really found my voice by aligning a clear purpose with the stories I was telling. And that's what we're encouraging you to do with Project V in the coaching space we do. It's the techniques of how to create the video content, but it's the strategy behind it. Why are you making this video? And not just, because you've got to do social media. That's not a strategy. That's just a reason to do it. A very surface level one that applies to everybody. But what is the deep strategic purpose behind the content you're wanting to make, and drilling down into that? And so my experience as a junior reporter, how I got past through those first 3, 4, 5 years and started to change how I showed up on video. Relaxed a lot more into that role. And it's not as simple as telling yourself to relax, because sometimes having somebody tell you to relax ends up just making you more stressed, right? Because you're aware of all of this stuff, and suddenly you're fighting an even stronger battle against yourself, because you're aware of what's not working, and it's putting an even greater spotlight on the things that are challenging you. So what shifted for me was when a lovely veteran senior reporter, known as, his name was Harry Potter, but he was the veteran crime reporter from the 70s and 80s in Australia, long before the boy wizard became a global phenomenon. But Harry Potter, the crime reporter, was just as well known amongst the senior detectives, homicide detectives, gang squad detectives in the New South Wales Police, respected not only by the authorities, but also by the families of the victims of serious crime. Those families that were well known, those big cases that captured the attention of the nation for weeks, months, years. He developed strong relationships of trust. And what he did with me, really took me under his wing. And he wasn't talking to me about how to present on camera or anything like that, but by giving me a purpose in the crime round, and then developing trust and a real relationship with the people that I was telling stories for, it changed how I felt about the fact that I'm telling stories now. I'm not just telling the news, but I'm representing these people's stories on national TV. This really matters. And honouring them in the way that I tell their stories really matters. So having a clear purpose shifted a lot of stuff that was going on for me. Now I still looked and sounded young, but I had a sense of calm purpose that shifted a lot of stuff. And that's the work that we bring to the fore for you in Project V, is helping you to really think through the strategy and delving into it in real detail, but then also doing some work on what's going on for you when you go to show up on video. There's a lot of ideas floating around in the background, and what do you do with them? What you do with them dramatically affects how you will show up. So that's why I really love being a storyteller coach, because everything that I've lived throughout my life, the 30 years in mainstream media, the experience as a 14-year-old with dad with the handycam, the magic of video to create community, the power of story to amplify impact by aligning it with purpose, it is so next level. It is so epic. Friends, thank you for taking the time to listen, come for a walk with me in the park, sort of come up here to a bit of a lookout. Very cold morning, as the snow melts on the ground. And I just love sharing these stories. I'd love to continue the conversation with you around this and all the other things that I learned. Even to unpack, if you're curious to talk about Project V and how it might be a good fit for you now to really change how you show up on the planet and how you use video to build trust at scale. It is so crucial to just get a few of these factors right to change. Sometimes it's a dramatic change in how you think about showing up on camera, but at its core, I just want to inspire you, as I have lived this experience and deeply love, even now as the Unretired reporter, I deeply love the opportunity I have to share this with other people, to go on a journey with them, to help them change how they show up on the planet. Let's keep that chat going. Thanks for watching.